Hey everybody, it's Amazing Fantasy Football with me, Chris, and my buddy. No, I'm just playing. Josh is going to be absent tonight. I mentioned this last Sunday. A little bit of the COVID running through the system. Yep, we'll go with that. So I'll be flying solo tonight. So you lucky viewers get to listen to me talk all night long. Yay! Not all night. Hopefully just an hour. Might actually go a little quicker since, we don't have two kind of interacting voices kind of bouncing stuff off each other there. But I do have Josh's notes, so I am ready to go with a handful of receivers and some tight end and QB streamers, along with a sleeper. And then, of course, my own. I don't know. Let us know in the chat how everybody's doing tonight. Thank you for coming on in and tuning on in and enjoying a lovely Thursday evening. We do have a football game going on right now. I see New Orleans leading 7-6 with about 13 minutes left in the second quarter. So for a little update for you there. Drop your questions in the chat. We'll get to them as we can. Otherwise, ahead of time, if you've got a question during the week before a Thursday or before a Sunday morning, let us know. Drop it in our Discord. Links are in the description. Tweet us. I'm at AFFB Chris and Josh is at Josh AFFB. Do you have anything on the screen for that right now? All right. And subscribe on YouTube for weekly content. Check out our podcast. Link is also in the description. With all that out of the way, I'll jump right into it here. It's week 7, and as Josh said, it is far from heaven. You've got teams on bye. Buffalo, LA, pretty sure that's the Rams. It's got to be the Rams, yep. Minnesota Vikings and Philly. I mean, that's, Philly, Minnesota, and Buffalo are 3 1-loss teams, if I'm not mistaken. Minnesota's really surprised me. But, your Dalvin Cooks, Jalen Hurts, running backs, quarterbacks, receivers galore from fantasy productive offenses. Rams, not so much this year, but, there's still Cooper Kupp, for goodness sakes. So we've got to get down to business and get you some replacements for these awful bye weeks. And then, of course, throw injuries on top of that. Speaking of injuries, let's get right into the news here. We're going to go in order of position. So we're going to start with the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. Dak Prescott has been medically cleared and is expected to be a full participant at practice tomorrow. I'm pretty sure that's a Wednesday update. So I think he's full participant Wednesday and Thursday. That's per head coach Mike McCarthy. Sounds like he's trending on a return on Sunday versus the Lions. Might talk about some Cowboy pieces later. Let's see here. Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, thumb injury, was a full participant in practice today, Thursday. Hey, what's up, Jose? I'm not sure how to say your name on of ESPN, but I know Siraz, however you say your nickname on ESPN, but I do know who you are exactly. Thanks for joining us, man. How's it going, man? If you got any questions, lineup questions, hopefully you don't play me this week. But yeah, any lineup questions, throw them in the chat. I'll get to them as I can. But yeah, thanks for coming on in. Panthers head coach Steve Wilks says PJ Walker will start this week versus the Bucks. Panthers have also designated Sam Darnold to return from IR. So just a little bit of kind of insignificant quarterback news there on not a great fantasy team, we'll put it that way. Not a great NFL team. The Washington Commanders quarterback Carson Wentz is facing a recovery time of about roughly 4 to 6 weeks and injured reserve in consideration. I haven't heard that's official yet, that he's on IR. He's currently in Los Angeles with a hand specialist. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson was limited at practice today due to a hip injury, and tight end Mark Andrews did not practice due to a knee. I'll probably double check on that because it says today. My apologies. I feel like that's a Thursday. That might be a Wednesday report. We'll get to that in a second. I haven't heard any scuttlebutt about those guys not playing, so I'm not too concerned, but I will definitely check on those because those are 2 huge pieces, fantasy pieces. Onward and upward. As Steelers coach Mike Tomlin promised, quarterback Kenny Pickett, concussion, was a full participant today. That is a Thursday report. Still, though, Trubisky is expected to start. There's a lot of the way I read it was that there's a good chance that Mason Rudolph will be the backup. So they're just going to be real cautious, tread lightly on this concussion protocol thing. But for all intents and purposes, he's been practicing. He's looking like he's going to clear that protocol if he hasn't already. On to some running backs here. Patriots running back Damian Harris was a full participant today, Thursday, despite a hamstring injury, indicating he might be close to a return. We might talk about his teammate a little bit later there. Broncos head coach Nathaniel Hackett says he had a great talk with running back Melvin Gordon, and he will start this week versus the Jets. This is me not caring. Onward. Baltimore Ravens running back J.K. Dobbins with a knee injury was unable to practice on Thursday for the second straight day, so he didn't practice Wednesday either. Dobbins' surgically repaired right knee tightened up on him in the Week 6 loss to the New York Giants, and he didn't play at all in the second half. Again, a little teaser. We might talk about one of his teammates later. DeAndre Swift, shoulder and ankle, is pushing towards playing Week 7. He was limited Thursday, so he was out there, but he was limited today. That's a running back out of order. Jonathan Taylor, ankle, chose to sit out last week, Week 6, and he did practice in full today, Thursday. So he's all but, going to be back. He should be back. Jose in chat says, my waiver pickup was Latavius Murray, so I'm bummed about that after he looked good on Monday. Yeah, that whole Latavius, I guess the coach was frustrated and he had just gotten on the team. I was in camp Mike Boone. I think you're the one who had Boone, dropped him, picked up Murray. So far, you're looking like a genius. I will say Boone did play the most snaps out of all three and got the most targets off the top of my head. So, but really, if you can stay away from that situation, which, hey, bye weeks, injuries, there's probably a chance you can't. But Murray, I would say, is my choice. It definitely seemed like Melvin was reduced to third string on Monday. So Murray would be my choice. It's so murky right now. I think Boone looks better, but, Murray's got fresh legs. What can you do? So you might have to start him this week, and he's as fine a flex RB play as you're going to see in a week like this week. We just did Jonathan Taylor. The Athletics' Jordan Roderick expects Rams 5th-round rookie. So this is is that a B report or a national? I don't know. The Athletics' Jordan Roderick expects Rams 5th-round rookie Kyron Williams with an ankle on IR to have a, quote, big role once he returns. The Rams have yet to open Williams' 21-day practice window after he underwent ankle surgery before the season. But over the summer, it appeared Williams was ticketed for a bigger than expected role on offense, possibly even moving ahead of Cam Akers on the depth chart at the time. But then he got hurt, with Akers, of course, done in L.A. Via trade or some other transaction. There's a spot for Williams alongside Darrell Henderson. So it might be worth a stash. That's why I included that. I haven't grabbed him. I think in a league or two, I grabbed Gus Edwards. We won't talk about Gus necessarily later, but talk about one of his teammates. Jets wide receiver Elijah Moore, frustrated with his role and usage, has asked for a trade. The team has no plans at all to trade him, and I don't blame them. The former second rounder was targeted once in the win over the Packers, and that play was negated by a penalty. So I don't know if he threw his hands up when that happened. I didn't see it live or anything like that, nor have I seen any highlights from that game just yet. A second-year player who really didn't kind of hit on the scene last year till, I don't know, let's just say mid-season. So a player with one half season of relevance is, can't say holding out, is complaining and demanding a trade. It's practically a rookie. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I'm a fan of the guy. I understand his plight because while the Jets are winning games and everybody's kind of excited about him, they're not putting up a lot of points and yards. That defense is really helping them. Zach Wilson's taking care of the ball. Obviously, Breece Hall in the run game, but they cannot seem to get the ball out to their receivers. Elijah Moore requesting a trade. The Arizona Cardinals placed Marquise Brown and offensive line Justin Pugh on IR, with Hollywood Brown expected back late this season and Justin Pugh done for this season. So it's Marquise Brown, on IR. And then, of course, the Cardinals traded for Panthers wide receiver Robbie Anderson as after he, I think it was during the game. He blew up. He was upset. Again, bad situation for receivers. Receivers tend to be the divas, but, you know, to be fair to both those guys, they're on low passing volume teams. They're on, I guess I couldn't call the Cardinals a bad team, but Panthers are bad. So just bad offensive teams, at least have been. I'm sorry, not Cardinals, Jets. Again, not a bad team, just bad offensively lately. More receiver news. Rashad Bateman with a foot injury was back at practice Wednesday, so that's a good sign. Mike McDaniel, optimistic Jalen Waddle will play against Pittsburgh. Dan Campbell of the Detroit Lions says that Jamison Williams will play this season. So just heads up there. Don't go pick him up or anything. He's still a ways away, I believe. Chiefs are considered a strong contender for Odell Beckham Jr. That's been bouncing around for better part of a week, so you know, I didn't believe in Odell. I've really always disliked Odell Beckham. Has nothing to do with my Cowboy fandom. I'm just kidding. He's also kind of a prick, let's be honest. But yeah, strong contender the Chiefs are for Odell Beckham Jr. And I doubted him last year, and he was both productive for fantasy and productive for the Rams until he got injured in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I remember, just before it. So he's a veteran. He's been doing this mercenary stuff and just kind of taking the off season off, and he can get ready. So might want to keep an eye out for him if you're desperate at receiver during the bye weeks and all the injuries. Chris Olave with a concussion was, they're playing right now, aren't they? Yeah. So I included this just in case anybody wasn't watching, but Chris Olave was on concussion. He was taken off the injury report, so good to go. So I assume he's playing tonight. In fact, I think Josh mentioned something on text about him looking good. The Packers have designated wide receiver Sammy Watkins with a hamstring injury to return from IR per head coach Matt LaFleur. This opens up that 20-day window that you hear come up often. And the Las Vegas Raiders tight end Darren Waller, hamstring, missed his second straight practice on Thursday. It's not a good sign that Waller hasn't practiced coming out of a bye week. They were just on bye, and he still isn't healed up from a hamstring. Rough year for Waller, man. Rough year. All right, what we got next? Let's start with Josh, and well, not Josh himself, but the receivers here. He goes on to say, with so many good fantasy assets on bye week this week, he took a bye week fill-in approach. He says he went with 5 guys who either had bad matchups at first glance, or someone you can grab off the waiver wire, or guys potentially at the bottom of your roster. Meaning you haven't been starting them for a couple weeks, but may not look like the juicy of matchups for said player, but you're going to need to get him up there into your starting lineup. Wide receiver Christian Kirk versus the New York Giants. The Giants are looking pretty good. The Giants are only giving up 13.9 points per game. That's the second fewest points per game to receivers. That's to receivers, to be clear. Like Josh said a couple weeks ago, the Giants secondary hasn't really been tested. That week they went against the Packers wide receiver core, who have been lackluster. Yeah, the whole Packers offense has been kind of lackluster, if you ask me. But that's one of the wide receiver cores they went against. And then last week against the Ravens wide receiver core of third tier wide receivers, because Bateman was out. I'm not sure who else was out, but Rashad Bateman was. I'm sticking with it. The Giants may be playing decent defense, but let's see what happens when they get some true competition. Now that the Jags are a high-powered offense, but they have put points on the board in games this season. Not that they are a high-powered offense, but they have put some points on the board this season. Let's move on to Kirk specifically. Kirk looks to be going up against cornerback Darnay Holmes, who's PFF's 72nd ranked quarterback, the Giants' worst-rated cornerback. That's good stuff. Zay Jones, believe it or not, actually has the higher catch percent and 2 more receptions on the season than Christian Kirk does. But this is about the slot receiver / cornerback matchup. So Christian Kirk, your first Fav Five receiver of the evening. On to running backs. I'm going to give you A.J. Dillon this week. I know. Bear with me. Dillon scored in week 1 and had over 70 rushing yards in week 4. Has not matched either of those in any of the weeks, since and is coming off 2 games of only 6 and 10 carries, respectively. That's the bad news. The good news is he faces the Washington Commanders without Carson Wentz. Not that that actually would have helped much, but, you know, might be an even more positive game script for the struggling Packers offense. The Commanders have given up the 8th most rushing yards in the season, and while they started pretty strong versus the run the last 2 weeks, they've surrendered at least 67 yards to 3 backs, meaning obviously one of those backs is a 1B or a backup or what have you, similar to A.J. Dillon. Without Wentz, and probably with him, I expect to see a very positive game script where Dillon will be allowed to rack up carries and probably a couple of red zone opportunities to ice the game away. With injuries and bye weeks, Dillon is a fine flex play with touchdown upside in what should be a blowout. Kind of thought that last week. But things happen. We're going to go and keep alternating running backs and wide receivers here. Next receiver we've got from Josh's Fav Five for the week, Alec Pierce. I knew he was going to include it, not because he's a Colts fan, because he's a hot ticket lately. He's while Paris Campbell is I think he leads all of their receivers in snap percentage. It's Pierce, and of course Michael Pittman. It's Pierce who's really playing well for both for the Colts. In their offense seems to be turning around. We'll give it another week or so, but seems to be turning around. So he's playing well. Currently, Alec Pierce has a less than 20% starting percent. He is looking like a good draft choice by Indy. Yeah, he's a rookie. I almost forgot that. He's looking like a good draft choice this year. He's not Jalen Waddle or the next Jerry Rice, but he's been all right. Pierce missed week 2 with an injury. Since then, his snap percent and number of targets go up. His fantasy output has risen each week. Also, since coming back in week, his fantasy output has risen each week since coming back in week 3. Last week he caught his first touchdown, but on only 3 receptions. Tennessee is giving up 30.8 points per game to wide receivers. That's second most in the NFL. If you haven't happened to pick him up this week, start him. If he's still out there, pick him up before somebody else does. Jose in chat says, I'm kind of mad at myself because I drafted Ken Walker, dropped him. I saw that weeks ago after a few weeks since Penny was looking so good. Yeah, you know, and in that league, we do not have an IR slot. I mean, helped with Penny was healthy when you dropped. Just from a roster manager perspective, we don't have an IR slot, but we do have 7 bench spots. So it's kind of like that. And of course, 12 teams makes slim and Pickens more slim on the waiver wire there. And so, yeah, you know, I play Dynasty. So, A, I'm very much into the NFL draft without being in Dynasty. But B, I'm in Dynasty League. So I constantly have to be looking at rookies coming in. So Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker were, except for maybe Drake London, but running backs are hard to come by. So Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker were by far the 101 and the 102 to me. Followed closely by Drake London, but some folks were taking Drake London second. But yeah, man, Kenneth Walker, we're going to talk about him later. Where was I? Back to my second running back. A1, Tony Pollard. Go Cowboys, except they lost last week. No, I did a pretty good job of not droning on about the Cowboys too much on this show, but I'm going to give you Tony Pollard as a lot of teams are out there kind of desperate at running back, wide receiver, across the board, bye weeks, injuries. Pollard leads Zeke in yards per carry, yards per reception, and just about every other stat besides, of course, carries, which is probably the most important one. He's averaging only 8 touches a game, but I have 2 words for y'all. Detroit Lions. Detroit has allowed the most rushing touchdowns to RBs, the 4th most rushing yards in the league, and the 2nd most fantasy points per game to running backs. With buys and injuries, I like Pollard as a high-end flex / borderline RB2 with upside for a big play. I mean, he's clearly shown he can make the big play. So yeah, Tony Pollard. Second Fav 5 of the week. On to Josh's 3rd receiver for his Fav 5. Corey Davis versus the Denver Broncos. He's only got a 13% start percent. Like Josh said in his opening statement, he's going for guys that look like, you know, not the best matchup on paper, but you're going to need to get these guys up in your lineup for the reasons I'm about to give you. This is all about a 1-week rental. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth. that I'm even recommending Corey Davis. I'm going to have a guy like that I'll be recommending, I think in my Fav Five, not my sleepers or streamers. Remember when Elijah Moore was a thing? Well, yeah, he's not anymore. Elijah Moore is getting out-snapped and out-targeted by Corey Davis. Hence why probably Elijah Moore is pretty upset. Davis has a couple touchdowns in the season, and he's got a good matchup this week with Sauce Gardner likely covering Garrett Wilson. Oh, okay. Damari Mathis should be the guy covering Corey Davis. Mathis is PFF's number 68 quarterback. The other guy was 72. Wow. Perhaps this is a recency bias, but watching Damari Mathis on Monday Night Football, he was just okay guarding Jerry Jeudy. I don't happen to think Jerry Jeudy is the greatest wide receiver either. Corey Davis, an okay bye week fill-in. Simple as that. Simple as that. Pardon me. All right, my third Fav Five of the evening at running back. We've got Kenyon Drake. He was flat out great versus what most consider a damn good run defense in the New York Giants. In relief of Dobbins last week. He was even making plays in the first half while Dobbins was still in and playing. Drake had 119 rushing yards on 10 carries, including a 30-yard touchdown in the second quarter. As I mentioned, he was making plays while Dobbins was still in there. And as mentioned earlier, the show Dobbins left, didn't play at all in the second half. His surgically repaired knee is firing up a little bit. Dobbins hasn't practiced all week, and Gus Edwards just returned to practice this week after his ACL tear in September of last year. So while Gus could have a role, it might well be very limited role. And wouldn't you know, if they get the Browns, who are giving up the third most fantasy points per game to running backs and just gave up 76 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 receptions to Ramondre Stevenson last week. Drake is easily a top 24 running back 2 kind of guy this week. So he's going to be started in a lot of leagues. Probably should be, needs to be. Oh, I see my next guy I'm excited to talk about. I saved my 2 low-hanging fruits for my last 2 guys. So the last 2 guys I'll talk about are be kind of your top 10, top 5 guys of the week. Again, bye weeks and whatnot. But yeah, these are must-start smash play guys. Let's move on to back to Josh's 4th. Yes, because I started with Josh. 4th wide receiver Fav Five of the evening. We've got a one Donovan Peoples-Jones versus Baltimore Ravens. DPJ is mostly a high floor / low ceiling plug-in guy, but if one is scraping the bottom of the barrel, one could easily just go with DPJ. I can't talk. His quarterback holds him back, but DPJ looks to get Marcus Peters, who is an aggressive corner, but is known to give up bigger plays in his career. One moment. Marcus Peters. Baltimore, right. Aggressive corner. He's also like 4 inches shorter than DPJ. DPJ has 3 games this season with 9 points. That's nothing to sneeze at, folks, in half-point PPR. Nothing to sneeze at whatsoever. Like you said, high floor, low ceiling. But Donnie Peeps, Josh is the nickname guy. Donnie Peeps is playing at least 86% of the Browns snaps. That's not bad. So if Peoples-Jones could score a TD in there for us, oh yeah, now we're cooking. The Ravens have given up 7 touchdowns to opposing wide receivers on the season, so it's possible. Ravens, and he pretty much touched on it. Ravens defense has improved, especially in the secondary, but I bet DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, can make a play, and it looks like Josh is counting on that also. All right, on to my first low-hanging fruit. Jose, if you're still in chat, the aforementioned Kenneth Walker III. I already said that about the low-hanging fruit. Walker looks like one of the most explosive backs in the NFL right now. Literally. He has proven that his 4.38 40 time was no workout warrior fluke. His jump cuts are devastating. I was watching highlights. Dude, he looks so good right now. He's going to be a league winner, I'm telling you. Where was I? And his speed score is 96th percentile on playerprofiler.com. Astonishing. I couldn't find any elusiveness ratings for running backs on the year, but rest assured he would be near the top of that metric. given, X amount of carries and whatnot. Walker ran for 4.62 yards per carry in his first full game without Rashad Penny off of 21 carries for 97 yards and 1 score on the ground. He even caught some passes, 2 out of 3. 3 targets, 2 catches, 13 yards. But hey, we're talking about half point and full point PPR, man. Let's get this guy in your lineups. He gets the Chargers this week, giving up the 4th most points per game to fantasy points per game to running backs, and are tied for worst in yards per attempt, and just gave up 67 yards and 4.4 per carry to Latavius Murray fresh off his couch. The aforementioned Latavius Murray. Walker is a smash play and easily a top 7 running back this week. All right, I got one left, and we are on Josh's 5th and final Fav Five of the evening. Sorry it's going a little quick, folks, but it's just me. Again, folks, if y'all are in chat, feel free to chime in. I do like this play from Josh here. Romeo Doubs versus the Washington Commanders. Doubs was one of my guys 2 weeks ago, meaning one of Josh's guys. That didn't work out so well. Lazard's kind of come on, but let's push on here. It may be hard to trust Dobbs considering that he's averaging 4.25 points per game over the last 2 weeks. Yeah, that sounds about right. But this is a great matchup. The Washington football team is giving up the 3rd most points per game to wide receivers and tied 3rd most touchdowns to wide receivers. Over the last 4 weeks, Doubs is averaging 7.5 targets per game. That's fine, man. That's fine. That's a good amount. I like Doubs' chances to turn those targets into production coming this week. I love it, Josh. I like it. I like it. He's one of my guys. One of my guys. I mean, I know he hasn't been great lately, but I'm not losing faith there. Let's hope he can help folks out this week. My 5th and final Fav Five of the show. A lot of alliteration there, folks. Sorry. Is one Ramondre Stevenson. Again, low-hanging fruit. This is it. Let me finish up here. Right up front. Fair warning. As I mentioned earlier in the news segment, Damian Harris was back to full practice today on Thursday. But I would argue Stevenson is still a great play this week. First off, the Patriots could bring back Harris on a pitch count. That's for you, Josh. Second, they play the Bears. First, let's talk a little usage and production and go from there. Stevenson has averaged 88% snap share over the past 2 weeks with Harris out of the way, while averaging 25 touches per game and 20.8 fantasy points. Oh, another one of my guys. I just love me some Ramondre. I wish I had him in Dynasty. The Bears have given up the 2nd most rushing yards on the season and are tied for 3rd worst, having given up 9 rushing scores on the year and given up the 7th most fantasy points per game to running backs. Now, it looking like there is no quarterback controversy in New England despite Zappy's good play, and Mac Jones is trending in. And I'll get to that in a second. Considering Chicago is actually good versus the pass, they're 3rd best, giving up only 178.67 passing yards per game. They're bad versus the run, as illustrated earlier. And both Mac Jones with an ankle and the aforementioned Damian Harris with a hamstring are coming off lower body injuries. I expect the Pats to run it down the Bears' throats, and there will be plenty for Ramondre to get his, even if his snap percent drops with Harris back, which I think we can all expect it to a bit. So yeah, man, get him in your lineups. Ramondre Stevenson, Kenneth Walker. I'm super excited about playing them this week where I've got them. All right, we already finished up with Mr. Joshua's Fav Five. Let's go on to his first tight end stream of the week. Now I'm going to preclude? No, I'm going to preface this by saying you could call this a low-hanging fruit because of the name value and the ownership percentage, but we want to go and reach out and give this you folks a vote of confidence and tell you to play this guy this week, especially, again, given buys and injuries. Excuse me. This is one George Kittle versus Kansas City Chiefs. The Kittle versus Atlanta call worked out great. It was a little obvious. This week, the 49ers get the Chiefs, where Atlanta ranked number 3 in tight end scoring. Kansas City is giving up the 11th most. They've allowed 4 tight end touchdowns. That's tied 3rd most. Kittle doesn't have a touchdown yet. Kansas City giving up 4 tight end touchdown. That's a repeat. And the Niners are going to need their best players to keep up with the Chiefs. I like Kittle to have a similar score this week that he did last week. Couldn't agree more. In fact, I would go as far to say hopefully he gets a tutty in there, man. Hopefully he gets a touchdown, because people have been very surprised by the Niners throwing so much, but it's been game script dependent. And you can absolutely, yeah, we didn't expect Atlanta to be Niners be behind by, you know, how many scores it was, by quite a bit versus Atlanta, but you can almost guarantee there's going to be points put up by KC. So, yeah, going to be a good game script for Kittle to get involved again, and hopefully keep that streak going of a return to relevancy, if not dominance. Now, with my first tight end streamer of the week, I'm going to give you Pat Freiermuth. Okay, he's been cleared off the concussion protocol. I mentioned it a little bit last week how big picture I'm a little concerned about how many concussions he's had, but I think Tua is going to be back this week or next. So just these guys with these names and these concussions are just kind of out there. And while there's a little trepidation, there's going to be desperation also this week. That's enough shuns. Miami is who they're playing. The Miami Dolphins. They have allowed the third most receptions to tight ends and just gave up a red zone touchdown to the corpse of Irv Smith. Great call last week, Chris. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I nailed that one, dude. I mean, it was like a 10 or 11 point fantasy day for Irv Smith, but that is gold for tight ends. And that's in half point, mind you. Jalen Smith. That sounds like a familiar like player name or something. All right, we got a question in the audience. One, Jalen is going to ask us, Breece Hall, Josh Jacobs, Ken Walker, and Aaron Jones. Sit one. Good question. I'm not sitting Hall. Gosh, I really can't sit Jacobs here. Let me pull up my schedule. Who is Josh Jacobs got this week? Seven Raiders. Texans. Packers have, because I just talked about them. Got a great matchup. God, that's a tough one, man. You are pretty stacked. Although Aaron Jones has been disappointing. I think I'm going to have to sit Aaron Jones based just off production this season. And the Packers offense struggling. Full PPR. Yeah, no way I'm sitting Breece Hall. I understand Ken Walker's not the best catcher, or at least doesn't get used that way. He's too hot right now. I can't believe I'm saying, but I'm going to say Aaron Jones, Jalen. Thank you so much for the question, man. Hit the sub button below. Check us out weekly for weekly fantasy content on Thursday evenings, Sunday mornings. Please, if you could. Thank you, sir. We were doing Pat Freiermuth. And if we're worried about who plays quarterback for the Steelers, first off, Mitch Trubisky looked great in the comeback upset of the Bucs last week. And Freiermuth has produced with both quarterbacks this year. Absolutely, Jalen. No problem, no problem. If you take out the game that he got hurt in, he's averaging 7.5 targets per game this season. So, yeah, Pat Freiermuth is as good a tight end dart throw and a tight ends. What more do I need to say? Freiermuth is my first streamer, tight end streamer of the evening. Get back to Josh's here. I love that one. I got to put that on screen, Jalen. Never been so stressed by a good problem. LOL. Yeah, no. 10-team league, if you don't mind me asking. All right, Josh is going to give us Austin Hooper versus the Colts for his second tight end streamer of the week. Austin Hooper has been more like Austin Pooper this season. Love it. Love it. But he's going up against the Colts, who are the 6th worst versus the tight end. This is by no means a sexy pick. Hooper isn't playing on 80%, nor is he getting a plethora of targets. But the Titans need someone to catch the ball. The Colts are like the 2nd best defense versus wide receivers and still good against the run. That means that Austin Hooper might just get you that touchdown that you're looking for in a tight end streamer. I couldn't agree more, man, because like you just said, Colts are 2nd best defense versus the wide receiver and still good versus run. You know, this is what NFL coaches and play callers do. They find a personnel weakness and they attack it if they know what they're doing. 12-team. Wow, you killed that draft, Jalen. Good job. Austin Hooper. That is Josh's second and final tight end stream of the week. Let's get to my second and final tight end stream of the week. Got my sleeper. Our sleepers are so... Oh, anyway, let's not go to sleeper just yet. Oh, you know what? I didn't even realize. Oh, no, I do have a second tight end streamer. Oh, just to get this out of the way, I also included George Kittle as an honorable mention. Thing needs to be said about that. I just want to get that out of the way. Dalton Schultz. Speaking of, you know, you could do worse. Schultz is healthy now, and Dak could return. I don't want to say it's a foregone conclusion, but it definitely is pointing in the direction of Dak returning. While I don't like to rely on narrative, I think we can all agree Cooper Rush had a connection with Noah Brown, and last year should be proof enough that Dak and Dalton Schultz have a connection as well. Dak's presence should raise the productivity of the offense, which hasn't been good, and Schultz could benefit. On top of that, it's the Lions. They have an awful defense. They're bad against everybody. They give up the 8th most fantasy points per game to tight ends. And that's my spiel about Schultz, man. He has done absolutely nothing. He's been hurt. I thought I included his ownership percentage, but it's crazy. Like, he might be out there. I think it's like 70 maybe. So Dalton Schultz, my second tight end streamer of the evening. Now we've got Josh's quarterback stream of the week. Oh, that's right. We've got the same one. I'm just going to read his off and then go to mine and see how much similar we are. So bear with me, folks. Homer pick. Josh is an ND fan. Matt Ryan threw the ball 58 times last week. By the end of the year, Justin Fields might have thrown that many completions. The Titans are 5th worst against opposing quarterbacks. JT looks like he might make a comeback this week, but I think the Colts found some success last week. Just might want to stick to throwing the ball until Ryan's arms falls off. Oh, what do I have on one? Matty Ice. He's back, baby. Well, we'll see about that. But he is my quarterback stream of the week. He's 43% rostered, so he is out there. The quarterback 2 last week with 30.16 fantasy points and almost 400 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. He gets the division rival Titans. We've already touched on being the 5th worst against fantasy points per games for quarterbacks, and tied 2nd for most passing touchdowns on the season. Sorry, where did I just... Titans, yes, the Titans. Again, 2nd most passing touchdowns on the season. Ryan gets JT back this week and is a great play. Should be in the quarterback 1 territory. Trust the process, folks. Trust the process on this one. That is one Matt Ryan. Both mine and Josh's quarterback stream of the week. Off the top of my head, I'll give you a couple more just for some variety. Daniel Jones wasn't great last week. I believe he was my quarterback stream last week. But he's still, even despite coming off like a 4 or like 6 yard rushing game, he's still like 3rd, averaging over 40 rushing yards per game, which is 4 points in your back pocket, you know? And Garoppolo. Now, again, that goes to the kind of, we're not used to seeing the Niners throw that much. They threw a ton, but they've got another matchup this week where they're going to have to throw a ton against the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm going to go and propose Garoppolo. I would go Ryan, Garoppolo, Daniel Jones in that order. In that order. All right, let's finish up with our sleepers of the week. I'll admit, Josh, if you're listening, or whoever else is out there, this one kind of threw me for a loop. It's a deep dive, folks, so hold on to your butts. Nick Westbrook Ikhine. Yep, I pronounced that right. Don't question me. He's the slot guy in Tennessee. So this is, again, in the Colts-Tennessee matchup. He's a slot guy for the Titans. That means he's going up against Kenny Moore. Last year, that would have been bad news. I'm not going to read that abbreviation. Maybe it's just abbreviation for short, and he calls him NWI. Sounds like a wrestling federation or a wireless technology or something. That would have been bad news for Westbrook and Ikhine last year. In the 2 matchups against the Colts, Nick, as I know him, averaged almost 10 fantasy points against the Colts. It's a deep dive, but with Robert Woods getting the outside looks, why not take a shot at my boy Nick? He's a low floor, low ceiling, but desperate times call for Nick Westbrook Ikhine. I think that was a rhyme. Well played, sir. Well played. Again, Nick Westbrook Ikhine, the Tennessee slot guy. There was a rookie Titans slot guy that was supposed to be the guy, but that didn't end up happening. All right. Well, how are we sitting? How are we sitting here with the stream? 42 minutes, almost 43 minutes. Gabby. Chris's sleeper, aka my sleeper. All right, hold on, folks. This is I threw this guy out 2 weeks ago. Rachaad White for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers running back. Let me be clear. Lenny Fournette is killing it, and I missed bad last week. I think it's last week, the week before last week. Anyway, I missed bad last week, including him in my Fav Five, meaning Rachaad White. Oh, I included my Fav Five of all things, not even a sleeper. That doesn't sound correct. Anyway, Leonard Fournette's killing it, folks. Let's just get that out of the way. And last week, he once again, a favorite sleeper of some folks in what a lot of us believed, meaning Rachaad White was a favorite sleeper of a lot of folks last week. What a lot of us would believe a very positive game script / blowout for the Bucs versus the Steelers. And we thought they'd, rest Leonard Fournette in the fourth, if not the second half, and give Rachaad White some looks. But they get the Panthers this week with PJ Walker at quarterback, and I expect the Bucs to jump out to a big lead and give Fournette some well-deserved rest, giving White a chance to show what he's got. I mean, this might be I might give credit to Josh for the deepest dive of the evening with Ickheim or whatever his name is, but this is pretty deep too. His snap percentage went down. It's not great. It's not above 60% or above 40 or 50% for that matter. But he's great catching the ball. If they can build a lead, give Leonard Fournette a little bit of a break, keep Leonard Fournette fresh. Rachaad White, especially in full PPR, could do well for you. He's got big play potential on the ground also, clearly. He's got some juice. And that concludes our sleepers, streamers, and Fav Five of the evening. Again, folks, if you got any questions, feel free to chime in. I don't have any Discord or Twitter questions available for us this week, but I bet I could think of a couple of asking for a friends, if you will. Not the page I'm... There we go. One here. I'll throw this one out. Yeah, I guess AJ Dillon and Wilson you might consider in the same category. AJ Dillon, Austin Eckler, Ramondre Stevenson, Jeff Wilson Jr. Again, Jeff Wilson Jr., Ramondre Stevenson, Austin Eckler, and AJ Dillon sit one. As of now, I'm sitting Jeff Wilson. That's probably recency bias off his bad performance. I just don't think Wilson's that great through the air. Honestly, I mean, he does fine. He does fine. He's been really efficient on the ground until last week. But we already talked about Garoppolo being a potential streamer. Again, Matt Ryan, Garoppolo, Danny Dimes. We already talked about Kittle getting a similar game script to last week, having to come back, having to throw the ball. And if Jeff Wilson's going to perform like he performed last week in that type of game script, I have him on my bench. So that, again, that's Dillon, Eckler, Ramondre Stevenson, Jeff Wilson, sit one. I'm sitting Jeff Wilson. I mean, I already included Ramondre in my Fav Five. He's a smash play. You've got to get him in your lineups. Eckler, no brainer. It really came down to Dillon and Wilson. I like Dillon's matchup versus Commanders better. So there's one for you. What else do we have here? I'm not even going to talk about those receivers. Oh, hey, look. It looks like DeAndre Hopkins is doing a little bit tonight. Ooh, that means they're up 28-14. Well, that's a decent amount of points for Cardinals versus good defense. So, Hopkins has caught 4 of his 5 targets for 37 yards on his first game back. Granted, it was suspension, so it's not like he was hurt. But still. Yeah, what do they call that? I can't think. A little bit of rust. That's what I'm trying to think of. A little bit of rust to shake off there. Faux show. But apparently he's looking pretty decent. See if I can get you one more here. I have Jeff Wilson here. No, I do not. What am I looking at? Eno? Oh, well, he's playing right now. That's a moot point. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I might be getting out of here in the somewhat near future. Any other salient talking points? Well, at the very least, that'll do it for the podcast portion of the show. Stream folks, stream watchers, stream listeners even, stick around. We might chat a little bit. But I'm going to go ahead and give a quick out to the podcast that we're going to cut the recording off real quick. Oh, I've got a script somewhere, don't I? Where's my script? Oh, there it is. Yep, that's not going to be a helpful script. I thought this script had an outro. It's no big deal, no big deal. We mentioned it earlier in the show. Please check the links in the description. We've got the link to our Discord. Drop us a question. We're in there every so often, trying to get that up and running. Twitter works good, works well also. At JoshAFFB, at AFFB Chris to drop us a question or just chat fantasy on Twitter. Yeah, and link for the podcast is in the description also. We are live every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time for the, basically the starts of the week, the Fav Five, the streamers, the sleepers. And we are live every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time for news and injury updates and any last minute line of questions that you may have for about an hour and a half on Sunday morning at 10. Until then, have an amazing fantasy football weekend. Adios. Stream folks, stick around. We're not going anywhere. We have a question in the audience. Josh. Oh. I thought it was a fantasy question. I already clicked on it. Oh. There we go. That's a good one to put up on screen. I'll be back next week. Screw COVID. Yeah, it's no joke, man. Like, it's... I almost wasn't surprised to hear from you that I think it was this morning about your raspy voice and still a little short of breath. It lingers. It lingers. And when you're doing something like this, talking for an hour and a half, it can get to faux show. Well, Josh, a little bit of good news. We had a friend from the ZTT Discord server and also a fellow league mate in the ZTT Fantasy League, Jose, show up tonight. Had a couple good questions, good conversation there. Got a new guy in here, Jalen Smith. Had a heck of a quandary about a stacked running back roster. I told him to sit Aaron Jones is the long and short of that. I was like, I'm not sitting Kenneth Walker or... Where'd it go? Oh, I guess it cuts it off. Okay, well, I don't remember who all it was. It was... Shouldn't that be down here then? Oh, here it is. Here it is. Breece Hall, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker, and Aaron Jones. I told him to sit. The one I told him to sit was Aaron Jones. I'm not sitting Breece, and I don't think I can sit Josh Jacobs because he had a juicy matchup, and I already talked about Walker. So that was a good one. I heard. Please share file. Okie doke, folks. Second here. I'll BRB. And we're back, folks, and the file has been shared, Joshua. Yeah, so there's that. Looking like a pretty quiet evening. I might just go ahead and get out of here. I'll give it a couple more minutes, see if anybody shows up with any questions. You should probably get out of here, get the edit done, and excuse me, and get some rest. Thank you for the notes. Thank you for the help. Again, get to feeling better, man. Well, let's see. I don't want to bring a quarterback controversies. That's too much. Talking about that? No. Talking about that. Oh, wow. Andy Dalton has thrown 3 picks. Whoops. Oh, the Taysom, I almost want to call him Taysom Hill. 1 of 1 completions for 7 yards, 2 carries for 6 yards, 1 for 1 receptions for 3 yards, and a touchdown, a receiving touchdown. Yeah, that's a tight end stat line for sure. You know what? That's what I want to talk about. It's ridiculous. If they continue to call him a tight end next year, like I almost think that's an NFL Saints thing. Like that's bullshit, is what that is. He's not a tight end. He's more of a running back than anything. But hey, they're trying to do what they can. They're down 2 whole scores, 14-28 at half still. Yeah, at half still, I guess. So, you know, as far as NFL and I guess fantasy goes, he's having a decent day at halftime. People are definitely having to start him at tight end. Here's a quick this or that. Oh, that's not fair because Taysom's playing. Forget that. Oh, here's somebody starting Gordon. See if we've got a better option for him here. Oh, he hasn't set his lineup because he's got Derrick Henry on the bench. Was Tennessee on bye last week? Yeah, anyway. Yeah, I would definitely play Derrick Henry over Melvin Gordon. Yeah, he's got the receivers. He can flex a receiver. Alrighty, Rooski. Yep, that's right. I just said that, folks. 2 picks 6. Oh, wow. That means thumbs up emoji. You can't emoji on YouTube chat. That's probably true. Oh, wait, there's a little smiley face there. 2 pick 6s. Ooh, wow. Well, I mean, that's 28-14. There's your 2-score lead right there. I wonder who else they have on their roster that they could give a try. I can't. Oh, there it is. What just happened? Oh, gosh. Oh, I guess. Oh, I have to pick the color. Jeez, man. Come on. There you go, buddy. Yeah. Yeah. Thumbs up. All right, folks. I'm honestly just killing time here, waiting for any more questions to come in. Josh needs to get the edit done and get some rest. I'm going to get out of here after one last double check on the chat. And we're sitting at right at an hour live anyway. So good call. Gives us a chance to get a bit of a short week with the buys and the absence of Josh. So by all means, folks, smash the subscribe button, please. Give us a like. Comment below. Let us know what we're doing wrong. Let us know what we're doing right. We're trying our darndest to get this thing up and off the ground while still leading a normal, real life. So let us know, man. You know, start chatting and start tweeting us. All the links are in the description. As mentioned earlier, we'll be back Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time for the Sunday live stream for news, injuries, updates, and lineup questions right before kickoff. Until then, peace out.